Every fall with my hockey teams, whether it was pro or amateur, we would get together as a team in training camp on the first evening before physical testing. And I would talk to the team, I would set the tone, our goals, our mission, our objectives for the upcoming season. And the first thing that I would emphasize as the owner and head coach was a rule that has served me extremely well as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. And it's a rule that if you research any of the great businessmen, entrepreneurs, male, female, makes no difference. Anybody who's had outsized success in this world, regardless of what their niche is without fail, they were the most punctual, I repeat, most punctual person that anywhere around. And I've read many biographies, autobiographies of great coaches, great athletes, great CEOs, great leaders, builders, musicians, artists, and without fail, especially people that were managing and leading large forces of people, they were the most punctual people in that particular business or team. I used to tell my guys, above all rules, and I didn't have a lot of rules as a head coach. Championship cultures don't require a lot of rules. You have more standards than rules. You have ways of doing things in a championship culture that are enforced by the leaders on your team. You can take the New England Patriots when they're winning Super Bowls. There's a culture there put by Bill Belichick. He doesn't have to be hanging around the locker room. He doesn't have to be enforcing rules and standards every single day. When they were winning Super Bowls, you have players like Tom Brady and the rest of those championship athletes who are enforcing rules and standards. And I think it was interesting that Belichick had basically the one mission statement, the one rule, and that was do your job. If you're a coach, a coordinator, a kicker, a linebacker, a defensive player, an offensive player, a special teams player, do your job. Simple, clean cut, clarity to the bone. It's the same when it comes to punctuality, being on time. I would tell my athletes, like Coach Saban has done, like Coach Belichick has done, like Mike Babcock did in Detroit and Anaheim and Toronto, like Coach K has emphasized in Duke. If you can't be on time, you can't be trusted. This is for players, for employees. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It's always the same principle, which is a really good way when you're bringing on people, like employees, applicants. It's a great test, and I have used punctuality as a test in my business career, 31 years in the trenches, 22 years as a pro and amateur hockey coach, and 10 years as a business and marketing consultant. I'll tell you one thing, I have used this test with hiring people, with vendors, with clients, with prospects. Do we want this person? And the number one thing, a great way to test people is punctuality. If I'm hiring a vendor like a printer as an example, or somebody to design a website, and they can't be punctual when they're earning the business, when they're on their very best behavior, what kind of performance and results are you going to get from this particular vendor once they're not on their best behavior? Any time in my life that I've turned a blind eye to punctuality, whether it was coaching sport or running one of my companies or a friendship or whatever it was, a vendor, it's always come back to bite me in the ass. And the bottom line is, and I've used this Dan Kennedy rule for a long time, if you can't be punctual, you cannot be trusted. And that's one of the principles I'm teaching in my world building program, my 8-week world building program. We're in, tomorrow is day number 2 of our 8-week Brotherhood Society coaching program. I've got an outstanding group this year of guys that really want to start playing offense, guys that are tired of playing not to lose, guys that want to be heroes in their own home, and guys that want to design a brand new chapter in their life. They want to design a new personal and professional world, and I'm going to help them do it over the next 8 weeks. Well, guess what was on the docket day one? Even for elite, driven, and generous men like I'm dealing with, it's so important that we constantly emphasize punctuality to our teams, in our families, to our children. I mean, this is a biggie with my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, Emery. We are busy parents. We need to be up in the morning. We're training, we're exercising. There's breakfast, there's all kinds of stuff. There's training, there's Hindu squats, all this stuff. Plus, we got to be across the city to take Emery to school. Then after, there's activities like horseback riding and chess and all these different activities, tennis. And my number one rule with Emery is punctuality. If we're not 10 to 15 minutes early for any of these sessions, whether it's piano, whether it was chess tonight, then she's not going, and I'm not paying for it. Being early just takes so much of the stress and anxiety out of life, because when things happen like traffic or delays or car problems or any of these Murphy Law things, you've got time on your side. You just don't go through these situations. As I said in my book, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Business and in Life, you can get a copy at nobullbook.com. I talk about my 88-year-old father, who I worked with for 17 glorious years. And one of the things I can honestly say, knowing my dad for decades and decades, as a family man, as a husband, he was one of my coaches in sports for a number of years, and working with him shoulder to shoulder in business, is I can quite honestly say I have never, ever seen the man late for anything. Not for me personally, not for hockey when we were kids, not for baseball, not for football, not coming out to the cottage to go boating, not for church, not for anything. The man is just punctual to a T. And when I say punctual, if my dad has to be somewhere at 8:30 for business or personal, the guy is in the driveway at 8 a.m. And that's what gives him that opportunity to never, ever be late. And, I remember he used to deliver farm policies and commercial policies, and the respect he would generate by being at somebody's doorstep at 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. sharply and ready to go. And it showed a respect for people's time that just filtered through his reputation. And people wanted to do business with my dad because punctuality equals integrity. It means you're respecting somebody else's time. And it's a really, really big one. I do that now in all my companies, the people that I want to deal with. I'm not going to deal with businessmen that can't be punctual for phone calls. I'm not going to deal with businessmen that can't be punctual for webinars and trainings. I want guys that are trustworthy and have personal integrity. We're in the business of selling personal sovereignty. In other words, building your own world so you can live life and do business on your own terms. Well, how the hell would a person be able to ever live life or do business on their own terms when you're not punctual and you don't show integrity for other people's time? And as soon as you start being super punctual, I tell my guys in our first training yesterday, I said, make it a goal, make it a personal principle to be the most punctual person period. Make it a goal, make it a ritual, make it a habit for you to be the most punctual, on-time person that you know. And that's for everything. That's for online meetings, that's for phone calls, that's for taking your kids to soccer, that's for church on Sundays, that's for gyms, that's for business things, it's for whatever. Be the most punctual person that you know. And watch what happens when that I don't know whether it's attraction, the universe, money, all those things, wealth, abundance, are all attracted to punctuality. And that's because you're showing respect for other people. And like I used to tell my Blue Wings, if you can't be on time, you're not going to be trusted. If you can't be early, 15 minutes early for practices and games, you're not going to play. And I used to hold the young men accountable, which is the key to coaching. And I would have my athletic trainer do spot checks. I call them mystery shopping checks in business, where I would say, okay, Tristan, I was at home getting ready to come to the game, and I would say, Tristan, because the guys would be there 2 hours before, and I'd say, listen, Tristan, tonight do a spot check of dress code and of punctuality. And she would literally go downstairs in the lobby. The players are coming through the front lobby 2 hours before the game, and she would literally write down the time without them even knowing when they arrived and how they were dressed. And it's amazing in a championship culture how when you do spot checks like this and other players know that you're doing mystery shopping and spot checks, how the standards of all the other players improve. And if we would catch one or two guys that weren't dressed professionally in a suit and tie, or we'd catch somebody that's a minute late or 22 minutes late, doesn't make any difference to me, late is late, then those players would be pulled from the lineup that night. They would do off-ice training for an hour with Tristan, and then they would put their suits back on, shower, and then they would do stats in the crowd. So instead of playing on a sold-out Friday night, they would have to explain to their parents and to their friends how they could not be on time, how they could not follow team rules. And I'll tell you, in my 7 years of coaching extremely high-powered teams, total powerhouse teams, not once did I ever have to correct one of our athletes 2 times. In other words, these guys were late once, it never happened again. And it sends a message to the entire team, the standards that we set and the importance of time management. And that's what it is, it's time management and always being punctual. It just sends the correct message to everybody that you respect what you're doing. And as Coach Nick Saban says in Alabama, it shows above all else that you care. Being early, being prepared, being present, it shows that what we're doing is more important than some other distraction. It shows that you care. So that's it for today. That's the goal, man. And that's what I was talking about last Tuesday is instead of just saying, okay, be on time, here's the thing. You want to be a badass top 1% millionaire. You want to be a world builder. Start with this concept above else. Be the most punctual businessman you know. Be the most punctual husband, father, grandfather, community leader. Be the most punctual person you know and see what happens. That's it. 2 words that changed my life. Loof. 2 words that can certainly change yours if you're on time to make it happen. Be relentless.